Wednesday the 8th of July 2020, a Redditor made a now removed post claiming that Maxwellhill, one of the most popular and influential Reddit accounts ever, was secretly ran by disgraced socialite Jeffery Epstein, confidant, and all-around awful human being Ghislaine Maxwell. Was one of the world's most hated criminals posting regularly to Reddit every day for 14 years? Or was it all just a witch hunt against an innocent person who just wanted to post things on Reddit for karma? In today's episode of Reddit Unsolved, we're going to uncover the truth behind one of Reddit's most mysterious and controversial recent mysteries, the theory that Ghislaine Maxwell successfully manipulated Reddit for more than a decade to serve her own unknown and presumably nefarious purposes. Welcome to Reddit Unsolved. In the ancient before times of the mid-2000s, Reddit had a much smaller user base. Steve Huffman and Alexis Ohanian, two of the original founders of Reddit, initially created multiple fake accounts to make the site look more busy, and to give real visitors something to read and interact with. They found the process of link sharing to be one of the most important features of Reddit, and eventually, they no longer had to create fake accounts as more and more real-world users were joining and posting their own links. When Redditors sign up and comment or post, upvotes translate into karma, Reddit's version of internet points. This led to the emergence of Reddit power users, Redditors who have acquired vast amounts of Reddit karma, either through link sharing, moderating subreddits, having heavily upvoted comments, being well-known site-wide, or any combination thereof. Or, to use a TLDR, slightly cringier term, they are Reddit famous. Although in the real world this is a pretty useless sort of fame, power users are able to get to the front page and therefore harness Reddit's huge amount of traffic. This makes them important to Reddit and, of course, the websites they generate traffic for. By the time Maxwellhill joined Reddit in 2006, the top 5 power users were all leaving Reddit for real-world jobs where they were being paid to post and promote blogs and other content. Maxwellhill filled the power vacuum by focusing on providing links rather than commenting. This would be their quickest path to 1 million karma, their stated goal in their attempt to become #1 on Reddit. In a 2011 interview they said, "I focused on building a reputation for quality links with a style of my own. I avoided pics, jokes, and comics if at all possible. I focused on well-written articles from reputable sources. I would change the title to reflect the gist of the article, but I would never editorialize it. Otherwise, I would appear biased and could alienate a general audience. Sometimes I had to make the title interesting, but I would never distort the story or be misleading. I would not comment on my own submissions either. I stayed strictly a content provider, sticking to the platform approach I had identified early on." Their tactics were successful, and by 2011 they became the first Redditor to reach 1 million karma. Gizmodo rated them #1 on a list of the world's most viral people, remarking, "Over the past 6 years, Maxwellhill's selections have made Reddit what it is. You could even think of Maxwellhill as a stand-in for Reddit as a whole." As well as being a prolific poster of links to news, current events, politics, technology, and the environment, they also moderated many of the larger subreddits, the largest being World News, which has over 27 million subs. However, as Maxwellhill's influence over the site continued to grow, Redditors started to grow suspicious of this person whose posts were constantly reaching the front page while also moderating many of the site's biggest subreddits. There are more than a few posts regarding Hill over the years, either accusing them of being a shill or for pushing a political agenda. In 2014, Daily Dot posted an article regarding a controversy surrounding Maxwellhill where they described them as one of the most reviled people on the internet. Damn! Looking into the incident that Daily Dot are talking about, this seems like a bit of an overblown statement. The actual controversy involved Hill and other moderators censoring certain topics via auto-moderator, and mismanaging the technology subreddit to the point where it was demoted by the admins and lost its default status. A big deal to people who care a lot about Reddit, but not really everybody else in the world. Nope. The controversy strengthened some of the growing resentment of some Redditors who believed that Maxwellhill was actually a paid social media promoter for websites that they promoted. However, despite the drama, Maxwellhill continued to post nearly every day and continued to reach the front page of Reddit, and by 2020 they had over 15 million karma, making them the 8th highest karma earning account on Reddit. Then on the 30th of June 2020 they made their final public post and have not posted again since. 2 days later, on July 2nd, Ghislaine Maxwell was found and apprehended by police in Bradford, New Hampshire, where she'd been hiding, at a luxurious remote compound. Around a week later, on July 8th, a Redditor named Nafka made the following post to the Epstein, a subreddit focused on discussion and investigation of Jeffery Epstein's crimes. Maxwellhill, the Reddit account with the 8th most link karma of all time, power mod of front page subs, first account to reach 1 million karma, is operated by Ghislaine Maxwell. Nafka went on to outline several initially compelling yet entirely circumstantial connections between Maxwellhill and Ghislaine Maxwell. That Maxwellhill had stopped posting around the time Ghislaine was arrested, after posting every day for 8 years. That the only gaps in Maxwellhill's posting history matched up with significant life events for Ghislaine, and that Maxwellhill had previously posted questionable comments regarding sexual abuse and the age of consent. Nafka ended the post with a link to a scrape of Maxwellhill's deleted comments and urged the sub to spread the word before the post got taken down. Although Nafka's fury was pretty brief, the post quickly became the most popular submission to the Epstein subreddit ever, garnering around 24,000 upvotes and dozens of awards. And the sub went rabid, pouring through Maxwellhill's 14 years of post history looking for anything that qualified as proof. Commenters pointed out that Maxwellhill had previously revealed that their birthday was in December, the same month as Ghislaine, and that Maxwellhill, like Ghislaine, used British spellings and used British terms, like bollocks and bloody hell. They also pointed out that many of Maxwellhill's posts were on topics that would have interested Ghislaine. Maxwellhill had posted frequently about ocean conservation, for example, a cause which Ghislaine Maxwell had harped on about for years, and even funding a charity dedicated to ocean conservation called the Terramar Project. Others dug up old articles about Maxwellhill's involvement in past subreddit dramas, accusations of manipulating their content to the front page, and posting editorialized titles and posting opinion-based articles in the World News subreddit. Out of all these shreds of evidence, a narrative began to emerge. Ghislaine Maxwell was either using Reddit or working directly with Reddit to manipulate the general public, both by promoting Ghislaine's own interests, such as ocean conservation, and to suppress mentions of Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffery Epstein. At this point, the theory became somewhat less credible and more geared towards Pizzagate, QAnon, and other debunked conspiracy theories. At one point, the theorists pointed out another account which they believed actually belonged to Jeffery Epstein, named, and I must stress, I'm not making this shit up, Goldstein. Bruh. However, not everyone in the thread was a true believer, and there are more than a few comments expressing skepticism and bemusement. Imagine thinking a billionaire with many businesses is a mod of Reddit. How deep can you guys sink into the rabbit hole? The only evidence? Maxwell is in the name, didn't post anything on a particular date. If you were to present this in court, they would laugh until you died inside. A post title in absolutes with all circumstantial evidence written to sound as plausible as possible. Wonder how much evidence to the contrary OP is omitting. Could have said is possibly or could be, but instead they went with a hard is. This means that even if there turns out to be overwhelming evidence to the contrary, OP has convinced people to make up their minds and not change them. Others questioned the theories that the screenshots provided by Nafka really did prove the serious allegations he claimed, and some went as far as to suggest that they may have been purposefully recropped and taken out of context to support the theory, something Nafka denied. Hasharin, a mod from World News, dropped by to attempt to debunk the theory. They pointed out that the screenshot Nafka had posted supposedly showing MH arguing for the legalization of CP was just an article they had posted, one of thousands they had posted over the course of 14 years and one that they didn't write themselves. This is likely true. In fact, a search of Maxwellhill's post history from 2012 shows that they posted around 24 links from this very site, all opinion-based articles on various topics, and all to the World News sub. If I had to guess, I'd say they likely posted this to inflame conversation and to get some upvotes and clicks, because in 14 years this is the only evidence that they ever uploaded material advocating for the legalization of CP. In fact, in their post and comment history I found way more examples of them calling for harsh punishment for P-words, criticizing the Catholic Church and the Pope for not doing enough about P-words, and generally being against P-words like most people in the world. Although the theorists claimed that MH had never posted anything negative about Jeffery Epstein, I found at least 3 links submitted by them about Jeffery Epstein that are negative, and the comment supposedly from Epstein themselves was actually criticizing the article MH had posted, which to me doesn't sound very Epstein-y. The third link, supposedly showing Maxwellhill griping about overprotective child protection laws, actually is them commenting on a case where a man was convicted of being a P-word for grabbing a girl's arm to stop her getting run over. A bit of a cringy comment, sure, but not really the evidence it purports to be. At this point, Hasherin told them that the person behind the Maxwellhill account was a man, not a woman, and that Maxwellhill wasn't a reference to Ghislaine Maxwell or Headington Hill Hall, the fancy mansion that was once owned by Ghislaine Maxwell's disgraced media tycoon dad, but instead was a place called Maxwellhill in Malaysia, where the real Maxwellhill was from. But Hasherin, like many in the chat who were skeptical, was just downvoted, attacked and called a P-word enabler. And many of their comments were deleted by the Epstein mods, who were not only refusing to remove the post but had stickied it to the top page of the Epstein sub. At this point, the thread really went off the rails. Any evidence in Maxwellhill's comments and posts that fit the theory, like Maxwellhill and Ghislaine Maxwell having birthdays in the same month and both sharing interests in the ocean, were embraced, because they were said by Maxwellhill and therefore must be the truth. But anything in Maxwellhill's post history that debunked the theory, like an AMA from 2012 where they say that they're a 40-year-old man, is ignored by the logic of, well, of course Maxwellhill would lie. Hasherin was subsequently PM'd death threats and gore, and whenever they returned to the thread to refute the many people constantly pinging them in the chat, they were told that even their responding to comments was deemed suspicious. Hasherin's further responses were subsequently downvoted into oblivion or ignored, and many of their comments were then deleted. By now, the accusations had come to the attention of the Reddit admins.
It is time for decisive action.
But the admins didn't take any real action to address the issue. I can only speculate as to why, but it's likely that they were in a position where addressing the accusations directly may have amplified the claims, and shutting down the conversation could be seen as evidence of a cover-up, especially as many of the adherents of the theory were openly implicating Alexis Ohanian, Ellen Pao, and others in the conspiracy.
Also, it has been brought to my attention that a number of you are stroking guns. Therefore, I will step aside and open up the floor.
As one of the central pieces of evidence in the theory was that Maxwellhill didn't post after attending a party that Ellen Pao was also a guest at. Instead, the admins quietly removed the body of Nafka's post and banned them for 3 days, along with a handful of other commenters. But they left the thread and most of the comments and many variations on the original theory up. And the thread is actually still active to this day. There are literally people posting on here in the last month. The thread then got cross-posted all across Reddit. Every new thread meant that new investigators were looking for more clues and more correlations were sifted from decades of Max's Redditing. Perhaps it's not surprising. At first glance, the evidence that did fit pretty well, and Maxwellhill's continued silence was the only proof that they really needed. Besides, Reddit wouldn't just witch hunt an innocent person, would they? On April 15, 2013, in the wake of the tragic events of the Boston bombing, where 3 people were killed and 294 were injured, Reddit has started posting threads about the bombing on World News and Boston. Due to the fact that many of these posts were being deleted, a Redditor with the delightfully apt name Oops777 created a subreddit focused on crowdsourced investigation called R Find Boston Bombers. They worked together to pour through the thousands of photos and videos that had been uploaded to the internet before and after the bombing to look for clues. For the most part, the majority of people posting in the sub were wary of the dangers of falsely accusing an unrelated person of terrorism, but a vocal minority were like, nah, fuck that, and they began posting pictures of people that were deemed suspects because they had bags, or they weren't looking at the race, or they were standing on rooftops, or they were brown. Overall, 4 or 5 people were wrongly identified, including one man who the sub had dubbed Blue Tracksuit Guy. At this point, people began tweeting about the thread, which caught the attention of the media, who were like, yeah, this is turning into a witch hunt, we'd better not get involved. Just kidding. They were like, nah, fuck that. 10 hours later, Blue Tracksuit Guy's picture appeared on the front page of the New York Post. But it turned out that Blue Tracksuit Guy was an innocent 17-year-old who worked at a nearby running store who'd come out to race but chose to spectate instead when he got there too late to compete. Oops then posted a thread appealing to Redditors to warn them that things were turning into a witch hunt. At this point, the FBI were growing so concerned about Reddit's online vigilantism that they publicly released CCTV images of suspected bombers 1 and 2. Outwardly, this seemed like an appeal for public help, but in reality they released the information to prevent internet vigilantes from hampering their investigation by falsely accusing any more innocent people. Ironically, it would have the opposite effect. On April 19th, a Redditor shared a picture of a 22-year-old university student, Sunil Tripathi, noting that he had similar hair and bone structure as Suspect 2. Sunil's face was soon being posted all over Reddit in image macros next to photos of Suspect 2. The rumours then spread to Twitter, where a girl who'd claimed to go to school with Sunil also started tweeting that Sunil resembled Suspect 2. And a user named Greg Hughes tweeted that the Boston police had been overheard discussing Tripathi as a suspect over police scanners. This confirmed the growing narrative that Sunil was indeed one of the bombers. Hughes was then retweeted by journalists from BuzzFeed, Dig, Politico, and Newsweek. Greg Hughes hailed the moment as a victory for crowdsourced investigation in general, heavily implying that Reddit and 4chan are more capable of breaking stories than old media. But he may have been celebrating just a bit too early. This series of events is often ironically referred to as "We Did It Reddit." I say ironic because, of course, they hadn't done it. You see, Sunil Tripathi had nothing to do with the bombings. He was a university student who disappeared from his home, leaving his wallet and phone behind 1 month prior to the bombings, after suffering from bouts of depression. Sunil's family were obviously very worried and had created a Facebook page to help find Sunil and to let him know that his friends and family loved and missed him. Shortly after the fury began to spread on Reddit, Tripathi's sister received dozens of calls from people leaving death threats and racial slurs. The Facebook page Tripathi's family had set up for Sunil was also swamped by insults, death threats, and more anti-Muslim racism. Tripathi's body was found on April 23rd. He had died by suicide before the bombing had even taken place. The whole event devastated Tripathi's family, who not only had to deal with the death of a beloved family member, but also the tremendous stress of harassment from strangers and the news media as well. When it was realised that there was no transcript or recording of Sunil Tripathi ever being named over police scanner anywhere, and that this was likely a straight-up lie, Greg Hughes quietly deleted all of his accounts and disappeared from the internet, along with many of the others who'd been championing him on. This whole event would become known as one of the darkest, stupidest moments in Reddit's history, and may have resulted in real deaths, as revealing the bombers' identities early may have caused them to take flight and engage in a shootout with the police where an officer was fatally shot. The incident would forever change the way that Reddit dealt with witch hunting, doxing, and citizen-led investigations. Or did it? As with the accusations against Sunil Tripathi, the Maxwellhill theory soon spread to Twitter, where it was retweeted by a YouTuber called Joe Leonard. At this point, Hasherin, a moderator of World News who knew Max, came forward again to say that the person behind the Maxwellhill account was a Malaysian man, not Ghislane Maxwell. This time they even provided redacted screenshots of Maxwellhill's recent activities in the Our World News backroom, and when that didn't abate the theorists, a screenshot of Maxwellhill replying to a PM. Another power mod, UNYT Law, chimed in to post more screenshots of Maxwellhill's recent activities in the World News mod chats. But the theorists just said that the photos were doctored, and as Hasherin and NYT Laws were mods, they of course were part of the conspiracy. As with our Find Boston bombers, the claims were soon picked up by real journalists, and on the 9th of July 2020, one day after Nafka's post, this article appeared in the Daily Mail, name-checking Joe Leonard. Like many articles that would follow, the Mail heavily hinted that the theory was true and ignored many of the main arguments against it, and of course it didn't include any of the mod screenshots. Some websites that covered the story did so a bit more responsibly, but they were either ignored or accused of being part of the conspiracy too. And for more than a year, articles, posts, YouTube videos, Twitter accounts, and podcasts have all continued to speculate and continued to spread the claims, while Maxwellhill has remained stubbornly, infuriatingly silent. A fact that the strongest believers point to as the ultimate proof. But it's worth remembering that Maxwellhill had been a power moderator on Reddit for a long time, who was known to ban people at the drop of a hat and to infuriate right-wing Redditors by posting most of the negative articles about Donald Trump that reached the front page. Any number of disparate groups could have made up the allegations and seeded them on 4chan in an effort to cancel Maxwellhill for revenge, or to spread fake news, or even to make Reddit a bit more Trump-friendly. And let's not forget that the Donald, where I found most of the posts griping about Maxwellhill's left-wing hegemony over the World News sub, was purged from Reddit along with a lot of other subs that hated Maxwellhill just 1 week before the theory emerged. Could be a coincidence, or it could be motive. Conjecture aside, I really don't think there's any substance to the allegations against Maxwellhill. The strongest pieces of evidence can be explained away as pure coincidences, and much appears to have been cherry-picked. It's kind of like the theory of the infinite monkey cage. A theory that an unlimited number of monkeys given typewriters and enough time will eventually produce the complete works of William Shakespeare. Except here they've produced a batshit insane conspiracy theory that seems far-fetched even by Pizzagate logic. But the surprising thing is how enduring the theory has been, and that it's not only not gone away but appears to be thriving and continuing to grow as we speak. It's pretty disturbing that someone can make up such claims anonymously only for them to then blow up on Reddit and appear on the news before becoming headcanon to thousands of unhinged people. As we've seen with Pizzagate, these theories can lead to real-world violence, so it's no surprise that Maxwellhill appears to have abandoned publicly posting, likely because they don't want their real-world identity leaked to a bunch of crazy people. I doubt there's anything they could really say or do to convince the most rabid believers of this theory anyway. Even if they posted tomorrow, the theorists would just say that it's a bot or something else. If Maxwellhill really was the person the theorists claim, I'd expect to see way more damning evidence considering there's 14 years of post history here. I'd also expect to see way more gaps in their posting history, seeing as Ghislaine Maxwell had a habit of getting around and being on the guest lists for some of the most swanky parties in the world on the regular. But let's face it, the Maxwellhill theory exists firmly in the Pizzagate theoretic universe, where in the warped reality of that world, it makes a frightening sort of sense. I tend to see this whole sequence of events as just another witch hunt for which Reddit has done next to nothing to prevent. But until Maxwellhill posts again, this one remains technically unsolved. If you're still watching at this point, I'd just like to say thanks. If you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe for more Reddit mysteries and random other stuff. If you'd like to contribute to the channel, you can PayPal me at the address that's in the description on the video or just flashing on your screen right now. And yeah, thanks for watching and hope to see you in the next year. Until next time.
Where have you been searching all along, confessing while alone without a clue, without a sign, without grasping it. The real question